Hi everyone, welcome back to Ahibash. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to argue that Demon Slayer's power scaling is fundamentally broken in ways that undermine battle shonen storytelling. The series suffers from three core problems. A breathing system that looks spectacular but means nothing mechanically. A chosen one narrative that contradicts the hard work themes. And a 100-year stalemate that breaks the moment Tanjiro arrives. These issues explain why the fandom can never agree on tier lists, and why debates about Hashira rankings never end. But before we begin, I'd just like to kindly ask you to subscribe. It's completely free, and it really helps us improve the videos for this wonderful community we've built. Anyway, that's enough. Let's begin. What even is power scaling, and why should you care? Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a YouTube comment section, maybe under a Demon Slayer clip, and seen two people absolutely destroying each other over whether Rengoku could beat Akaza in a rematch? Or maybe you've scrolled through Reddit and found a tier list with 500 comments, half of them calling the creator an idiot for putting Giyu above Sanemi? Or Sanemi above Giyu? Depending on the day, really. If you've been anywhere near the anime community in the past few years, you've witnessed power scaling debates. And if you're like most normal people, you probably rolled your eyes and kept scrolling. Because who cares, right? These are fictional characters. They're drawings. The winner of any fight is whoever the author decides wins. End of story. And honestly, you'd be partially correct. But you'd also be missing something important. Because power scaling, as annoying as the debates can get, serves a real purpose in storytelling. When it works, you don't even notice it's there. When it fails, something feels wrong about the story, even if you can't quite explain why. So before we spend the next few hours talking about everything wrong with Demon Slayer's approach to power and combat, we need to establish what power scaling actually is, what it's supposed to do, and why, when a series gets it wrong, the emotional stakes of every fight start to crumble. Power scaling, at its most basic level, is the audience's attempt to understand how strong characters are relative to each other. It follows simple logic. If character A beats character B in a fair fight, and character B beats character C, then character A should logically be able to beat character C. This is called transitive property. You probably learned it in math class before you forgot it existed. In real life, combat doesn't work this cleanly. Styles make fights. Bad days happen. Someone might beat a stronger opponent through luck or strategy or just catching them off guard. But in fiction, especially in battle shonen, we expect some level of consistency. We expect the story to follow its own rules. Why? Because battle shonen is built on escalation. The entire genre works by having characters face increasingly powerful opponents, grow stronger through training and willpower, and eventually overcome challenges that seemed impossible. If we don't understand how strong anyone is, if victories feel random or arbitrary, then that escalation means nothing. The training montages mean nothing. The dramatic power-ups mean nothing. Everything just becomes noise. Think about Dragon Ball Z for a second. Say whatever you want about that series. Call it repetitive, call it simple. Call it the same arc repeated with different colored hair. But you know what Dragon Ball Z did really well? Power levels. Literally. The series introduced actual numbered power levels that characters could measure with devices called scouters. Raditz shows up on Earth with a power level of 1,500. Goku, at the start of that fight, is around 400. Later, against Vegeta, Goku pushes past 8,000. By the time we reach Frieza on Namek, we're dealing with power levels in the millions. Is this system sophisticated? Absolutely not. It's about as subtle as a brick through a window. But it works. When Vegeta's scouter explodes because Goku's power level is too high to measure, we understand exactly what that means. When Frieza casually mentions his power level is 530,000 in his first form, we know immediately that our heroes are in serious trouble. The numbers give us a framework to understand the stakes. The VS Battles Wiki, one of the largest power scaling communities online, has spent years cataloging these Dragon Ball numbers. Raditz at 1,500, Nappa at 4,000. Vegeta at 18,000, Frieza at 530,000 in first form, scaling up to 120 million at full power. Goku as a Super Saiyan hitting 150 million. These numbers create a clear hierarchy. You know where everyone stands. Now, Dragon Ball eventually abandoned explicit power levels because the numbers got ridiculous. By the Buu saga, Fan calculations put characters in the billions. By super, we're apparently dealing with quintillions if you believe certain promotional materials. The system stopped being useful when the numbers lost all meaning. But here's the key point. Even after Dragon Ball stopped giving us explicit numbers, the scaling remained internally consistent. We understood that Super Saiyan 2 was stronger than Super Saiyan 1, that Super Saiyan 3 was stronger than 2, that certain characters had reached certain levels of power based on their training and transformations. The framework persisted even without the specific measurements. At the opposite end of the complexity spectrum, you have Hunter x Hunter and its Nen system. Yoshihiro Togashi created something genuinely brilliant with Nen. Instead of raw power levels, Nen emphasizes categories, matchups, and conditions. Every Nen user falls into one of 6 categories: enhancement, transmutation, emission, conjuration, manipulation, or specialization. Each category has strengths and weaknesses. An enhancer excels at direct combat, but struggles with complex abilities. A conjurer can create objects with incredible properties, but might lack raw power. The system creates natural matchup advantages and disadvantages. More importantly, Nen abilities often come with conditions and limitations. The more restrictive the condition, the more powerful the ability can be. Kurapika's Change Ale is one of the strongest abilities in the series, capable of completely immobilizing an opponent. But it only works on members of the Phantom Troop. Against anyone else, it's useless. This limitation is what gives the ability its power. The VS Battles Wiki describes Hunter x Hunter's power system as enabling characters with skills ranging from fear manipulation to paralysis inducement to death manipulation. But these abilities work under specific conditions, creating a system where matchups matter more than raw stats. What does this mean for the audience? It means we can understand why fights go certain ways. When Gon defeats Genthru in Greed Island, despite Genthru arguably being more experienced, we understand how. Gon sacrificed his hand to get inside Genthru's guard, exploiting a specific weakness in Genthru's ability. The victory makes sense within the established rules. When Kurapika defeats Uvogin, one of the physically strongest humans in the series, we understand why. Kurapika's entire ability set was designed specifically to fight the Phantom Troop. Against any other opponent, that fight might have gone differently. The system allows for upsets that feel earned, rather than random. So we have Dragon Ball with its simple numerical approach, Hunter x Hunter with its complex conditional approach. Both systems work because they're internally consistent. They follow their own rules. They give the audience a framework to understand power dynamics. And then we have Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer, as of July 2025, has sold over 220 million copies worldwide. It generated an estimated 1 trillion yen, roughly $8.75 billion, in revenue during 2020 alone. The Mugen Train movie became the highest-grossing anime film of all time. A survey found that 97.8% of the Japanese public was familiar with the series. By any commercial measure, Demon Slayer is one of the most successful anime and manga franchises in history. It's a genuine cultural phenomenon. And yet, spend 5 minutes in any Demon Slayer fan community discussing power levels, and you'll witness absolute chaos. Who's the strongest Hashira after Gyome? Nobody agrees. Could Rengoku have beaten Akaza with the Demon Slayer mark? Endless debate. Is Muichiro stronger than Giyu? Depends on who you ask and what day of the week it is. The tier lists that get posted to Reddit and forums like Comic Vine generate hundreds of comments, most of them disagreements. People argue using the same scenes as evidence for completely opposite conclusions. The fandom cannot reach consensus on even basic ranking questions because the series itself doesn't provide clear answers. This isn't fans being unreasonable. This is what happens when a battle shonen doesn't establish clear power dynamics. When the system is vague, interpretations multiply. When interpretations multiply, arguments never end. And maybe that's fine. Maybe a successful series doesn't need coherent power scaling. Maybe the animation is good enough that people don't care. Maybe emotional moments land regardless of whether the combat system makes sense. Those are fair arguments. We'll address them later in this essay. But first, we need to examine exactly where Demon Slayer's power scaling breaks down. And it starts with the foundation of everything. The breathing system that looks absolutely incredible on screen and means almost nothing from a functional standpoint. That's what we're going to talk about next. Section 2. The breathing system looks amazing and means nothing. Let's talk about what makes Demon Slayer visually distinctive. Because whatever criticisms exist about the series, nobody can deny that the breathing techniques look absolutely incredible on screen. When Tanjiro uses water breathing, we see flowing blue currents that seem to ripple and crash like actual waves. The animation creates this gorgeous effect where his sword movements leave trails of water in their wake. It's beautiful. It's cinematic. It makes you understand immediately why Ufotable became the most celebrated anime studio of its generation. When Zenitsu uses thunder breathing, lightning crackles across the screen. The yellow and orange electricity feels dangerous and powerful. When Rengoku uses flame breathing, we get roaring fire that fills the frame with warmth and intensity. When Tengen uses sound breathing, there are these explosive, percussion-like effects that make every strike feel like a bomb going off. Each breathing style has its own color palette, its own visual language, its own feeling. Water is calm and flowing. Thunder is sharp and fast. Flame is passionate and overwhelming. Stone is heavy and grounded. Wind is chaotic and unpredictable. The visual design team clearly put enormous thought into making each style feel distinct, and none of it means anything. Here's the dirty secret of Demon Slayer's combat system. Those beautiful elemental effects, they're not real. The water, the fire, the lightning, none of it is actually there. Characters in the story don't see water coming out of Tanjiro's sword. Demons don't get burned by Rengoku's flames. The visual effects are purely for the audience's benefit. Now, where is this explained in the anime? That's the problem. It's barely explained at all. The show just kind of assumes you'll figure it out. There's no moment where someone sits down and says, by the way, all those cool effects you're seeing are just artistic representations of sword movements. The series treats this as obvious when it's anything but obvious. The closest we get to clarification comes through the Taisho-era secrets. Those little post-credits segments where characters share fun facts about the world. These segments give us tidbits like Shinobu's poison being known only to her and her swordsmith, or Kyojuro being the 97th Leader's era's flame Hashira, or Mitsuri's hair color coming from eating 170 Sakura mochi in 8 months. They're cute, they're charming, they add personality to the characters, but they also raise more questions than they answer about the actual mechanics of combat. We learn that Shinobu formulates her poison inside her scabbard. We learn that Gyu's favorite food is simmered salmon with daikon. We learn that Tengen's hobby is finding secret hot springs. What we don't learn is anything useful about how breathing techniques actually function in battle. If you pay attention during the final selection arc, you'll notice something interesting. When Tanjiro fights demons for the first time using water breathing, the demons never react to the water itself. They react to being cut. They react to Tanjiro's speed, but they never dodge water or complain about getting wet, or show any indication that literal water is hitting them. This continues throughout the entire series. In the Entertainment District arc, Tengen's sound breathing creates these massive explosive effects on screen. But Gyutaro and Daki don't react like bombs are going off around them. They react like they're fighting a very skilled swordsman with a fast blade. The sound of sound breathing never actually does anything to them. In the Swordsmith Village arc, we learn more about the origin of breathing styles. They all derive from sun breathing, the original technique created by Yoriichi Tsugikuni. Because Yoriichi was so impossibly talented that no one could replicate his style exactly, derivative forms were created. Water, flame, wind, stone, thunder. These became the 5 main branches. From those branches, more specialized styles emerged. Sound breathing comes from thunder. Love breathing comes from flame. Mist breathing comes from wind. This is interesting lore. It gives the breathing system a history and a logic. But here's the question that the anime never adequately answers. If all breathing styles are just derivatives of the same original technique, what makes them different in practical terms? When someone uses water breathing instead of flame breathing, what changes about their combat capabilities? Are water-breathing users better at defense? Are flame-breathing users more powerful at offense? Is thunder-breathing actually faster than other styles? Or does it just look faster because of the lightning effects? The anime implies these differences exist without ever demonstrating them clearly. Water-breathing is described as the most adaptable and easiest to learn. Okay, but what does adaptable mean in combat? Does it give more technique options? More ways to approach different enemies? We're never shown this adaptability in action. Tanjiro just fights, and sometimes he uses water techniques, and sometimes he uses sun techniques, and the outcomes seem determined by plot requirements rather than tactical choices. Captain M, in his critique video that sparked so much debate in the fandom, asked a question that I think gets to the heart of this problem. He challenged viewers to explain the difference between sound-breathing fourth form, water-breathing fourth form, and beast-breathing fifth fang. What makes these techniques functionally different from each other? The honest answer is, we don't know. They look different, they have different names, but in terms of what they actually do to an opponent, they all accomplish the same basic thing. They cut demons. That's it. There's no elemental advantage. There's no tactical trade-off. There's no reason to prefer one style over another except personal affinity. Compare this to literally any other combat system in Battle Shonen. In Naruto, fire techniques burn things. Water techniques create actual water. Earth techniques shape the ground. Lightning techniques electrocute. If you use fire against someone using water, you're at a disadvantage. If you use lightning against someone in water, you have an advantage. The elements matter because they interact with each other. In One Piece, Devil Fruit powers have specific strengths and weaknesses. Luffy is rubber, so blunt force doesn't hurt him, but he's vulnerable to cutting attacks. NL is lightning, so Luffy's rubber body makes him immune. The powers create natural matchup dynamics that make fights more interesting. In Jujutsu Kaisen, cursed techniques have defined effects. Gojo's infinity creates a literal barrier. Sukuna's dismantle and cleave cut in specific ways. Todo's boogie woogie swaps positions. You understand what each technique does, and can anticipate how fights will play out based on the techniques involved. Demon Slayer has none of this complexity. All breathing styles cut demons. Full stop. The question of which style is better becomes meaningless because they all accomplish the same goal with no tangible differences. The only things that seem to matter are the user's individual skill and raw power, which have nothing to do with their breathing style choice. This creates a weird situation where the visual language of the anime promises more than the story delivers. When you see water and fire and lightning on screen, your brain expects those elements to matter. You expect the fire to burn. You expect the lightning to shock. You expect tactical interactions based on elemental properties. But those expectations are never fulfilled. Some fans defend this by saying the breathing styles suit different body types. Flame breathing works for people with certain physical characteristics. Water breathing works for others. This is stated in the anime, but it's never meaningfully demonstrated. Tanjiro switches from water to sun breathing, which should theoretically be the hardest style to use, and he manages it through sheer willpower. Mitsuri created love breathing, a derivative of flame, specifically for her own body type. But we never see someone fail to use a style because their body wasn't suited for it. We never see the consequences of that mismatch. The one exception to all of this is sun breathing. The anime clearly establishes that sun breathing is special. It's the original. It's what Muzan fears. It's what Yorichi used to nearly kill the Demon King centuries ago. When Tanjiro uses Hinokami Kagura in the final selection arc finale, it feels like a genuine power-up because the story has established that sun breathing is on a different level. But even here, the anime struggles to explain why sun breathing is stronger. Is it because the individual techniques are more powerful? Is it because there are more forms? Is it some mystical property of the sun itself that demons are vulnerable to? The answer seems to be yes, all of that sort of, without committing to any specific explanation. And this vagueness has consequences. It means the fandom can never agree on anything related to breathing style rankings. Is a master of water breathing stronger than a master of flame breathing? Depends on who you ask. Does thunder breathing's supposed speed advantage matter against demons with regeneration? Nobody knows. Would stone breathing's power emphasis help against faster opponents, or just make you too slow? The anime never addresses it. The result is a combat system that looks absolutely stunning and means almost nothing from a mechanical standpoint. Ufotable's animation team created distinct visual identities for each breathing style, and the story failed to give those identities any substance. We have the aesthetic of a complex power system without the actual complexity. This might not bother casual viewers. If you're just watching for the pretty colors and emotional moments, the breathing system works fine. It looks cool. It feels epic. Mission accomplished. But if you're trying to understand power dynamics, if you're trying to figure out who would beat who in a theoretical matchup, The breathing system gives you nothing to work with. And that becomes a real problem when the story starts making claims about character strength that the combat system can't support. So once you realize the breathing styles don't actually do anything different mechanically, the next problem becomes obvious. When the show says something like, thunder breathing is faster. It never explains what that actually means. Before we move on, go ahead and hit subscribe. Totally free, and it really helps us keep this going. Alright, let's continue. Section 3. Thunder breathing is faster, but how much faster? Let's do a thought experiment. I'm going to describe 2 attacks, and you tell me which one is stronger. Attack 1. A swordsman swings his blade in a horizontal arc. Blue visual effects trail behind the sword, creating the impression of flowing water. The technique is called water surface slash. Attack 2. A swordsman swings his blade in a horizontal arc. Yellow visual effects crackle around the sword, creating the impression of lightning. The technique is called thunderclap and flash. Which attack deals more damage? Which one is faster? Which one would you rather be hit by if you had to choose? If you answered, I have no idea, congratulations. You understand Demon Slayer's power scaling problem perfectly. The series tells us that different breathing styles have different properties. Thunder breathing is supposed to be fast. Water breathing is supposed to be adaptable. Stone breathing is supposed to be powerful. Flame breathing is supposed to be aggressive. These descriptors sound meaningful. They imply that choosing a breathing style involves trade-offs, that a thunder-breathing user sacrifices something to gain their speed advantage. But the anime never actually shows us what those trade-offs are. And more importantly, it never quantifies the advantages. Consider Zenitsu's introduction in the Suzumi Mansion arc. This is where we first see thunder breathing in action. Zenitsu, who spends most of the arc crying and screaming about how scared he is, suddenly falls asleep and becomes a completely different person. He launches forward with incredible speed, decapitating a demon in what seems like an instant. The attack is visually stunning. Lightning crackles. The camera barely tracks the movement. It feels fast. But here's the question the anime never answers. Is Zenitsu fast because thunder breathing is inherently faster than other styles? Or is Zenitsu fast because he's personally talented at speed? Or is he fast because thunderclap and flash specifically is a speed-focused technique within thunder breathing? The answer seems to be all of the above, kind of, depending on when you ask. And that vagueness creates real problems for understanding how strong anyone actually is. Throughout the series, we see other characters move at comparable speeds using completely different breathing styles. In the Mugen Train arc, we watch Rengoku fight Akaza. Both combatants move at incredible speeds. Rengoku uses flame breathing. He's not slower than what we saw from Zenitsu. If anything, the fight between Rengoku and Akaza feels faster and more intense than anything Zenitsu accomplished in the Suzumi Mansion. So what happened to thunder breathing's speed advantage? Did it never exist? Does flame breathing have its own speed that rivals thunder? Is Rengoku just personally so skilled that he overcomes the theoretical speed gap? The anime offers no answers. The Entertainment District arc introduces Tengen Uzui and his sound breathing. The Taisho-era Secrets segment after one episode reveals that Tengen describes his style as flashy. He uses explosive, percussion-like attacks. He has excellent hearing that lets him read enemy movements. He's one of the fastest Hashira in terms of raw running speed, according to supplementary materials. But wait, if Tengen is one of the fastest Hashira, and he uses sound breathing, and sound breathing derives from thunder breathing, does that mean sound breathing is also a speed-focused style? Or does Tengen's speed come from his shinobi training rather than his breathing style? The anime shows us that Tengen fights quickly and explosively, but it never clarifies whether that's a sound-breathing trait or a Tengen trait. And this matters because the Entertainment District arc features a fight where Tengen struggles significantly against Upper Moon 6. If sound breathing gives speed advantages inherited from thunder breathing, and Tengen is personally one of the fastest Hashira, why does he struggle so much? The answer the fandom usually gives is that Upper Moon 6 is just that strong. But that's not really an answer. That's just restating the problem. Water breathing gets described as the easiest to learn and the most adaptable style. In the final selection arc, Urokodaki teaches Tanjiro water breathing specifically because of its versatility. The idea seems to be that water breathing can handle many different situations, making it a good foundation style for a new demon slayer. But what does adaptable actually mean in combat? The anime shows Tanjiro using various water-breathing forms against different opponents. He uses different numbered techniques, but I've never seen a moment where water breathing's adaptability actually mattered. There's no scene where Tanjiro thinks, I need to adapt to this situation. Good thing I learned water breathing. He just uses whatever technique seems appropriate, the same way any fighter in any series chooses their moves. Contrast this with a series like Naruto, where elemental advantages are explicit. A fire user attacking a water user knows they're at a disadvantage. The adaptability of certain techniques or fighting styles is demonstrated through matchup scenarios. We see characters choose approaches based on their opponent's elemental affinity. The system has tactical depth. Demon Slayer's breathing styles have no such interactions. Water breathing doesn't counter fire breathing. Thunder breathing doesn't have an advantage against stone breathing. The elements are purely cosmetic labels that don't affect anything mechanical. The most damning example might be Gyomei Himejima, the stone Hashira. By the time we reach the Hashira training arc, the anime has established that Gyomei is universally considered the strongest Hashira. Other characters acknowledge this. The fandom acknowledges this. It's one of the few power scaling facts that everyone agrees on. But why is Gyomei the strongest? Is it because stone breathing is the most powerful style? That would be an interesting choice by the author. It would suggest that the element you choose for your breathing style actually matters for your combat ceiling. Except that's not what the anime tells us. Gyomei's strength is attributed to his physical body. He's enormous. He's incredibly muscular. He has exceptional sensory abilities despite being blind. His weapon is unique among the Hashira, a chain-connected flail and axe rather than a traditional sword. Everything that makes Gyomei strong seems to be personal to Gyomei, not inherent to stone breathing. So if Gyomei trained in water breathing instead, would he still be the strongest Hashira? The anime implies yes. His power comes from his body and his will, not from the specific style he practices. Which raises the obvious question. Why does the breathing style matter at all? The same logic applies across the board. Mitsuri's love breathing apparently suits her unique muscle composition. Obanai's serpent breathing works with his flexible fighting style. Muichiro's mist breathing matches his unpredictable movement patterns. Every Hashira's style seems to be a reflection of their personal abilities, rather than a source of those abilities. If breathing styles are just aesthetic wrappers around individual skill, then comparing styles becomes meaningless. Asking whether thunder breathing is stronger than flame breathing becomes equivalent to asking whether Zenitsu is stronger than Rengoku. The style itself contributes nothing to the equation. And yet the anime constantly implies that styles do matter. Characters discuss which style suits them. Tanjiro switches from water to sun breathing as a power-up. The existence of derivative and original styles suggests a hierarchy. Sun breathing being the source of all other styles implies it's somehow special or superior. This creates a frustrating contradiction. Styles seem to matter for plot purposes, but not for actual combat mechanics. Tanjiro gaining access to sun breathing feels important narratively, but the anime never clearly demonstrates what sun breathing does that water breathing couldn't. We're told sun breathing is stronger. We're shown pretty red and orange effects. We never get a mechanical explanation for why those effects translate to better demon-killing performance. The result is a fandom that endlessly debates questions the anime refuses to answer. Is thunder breathing the fastest style overall, or just for specific techniques? Does flame breathing have higher attack power than water breathing? If two equally skilled swordsmen fought, one using stone breathing and one using mist breathing, who would win based purely on style advantages? Nobody knows. The anime never tells us, and the debates rage on forever, filling comment sections and Reddit threads with arguments that can never be resolved because there's no factual foundation to build on. This is absence. A complex system has many interacting parts that can be analyzed and understood. An absent system has nothing to analyze. Demon Slayer's breathing styles are the latter. They're beautiful, distinctive, and completely empty of mechanical substance. So once the breathing styles fail to give us any real way to compare fighters, the story leans on demon rankings instead. And that hierarchy ends up being even more confusing than the styles ever were. Section 5. The demon hierarchy makes even less sense. If ranking the Hashira is difficult, ranking the demons should be easier. After all, the demons have an actual numbered hierarchy. The 12 Kizuki, 12 demons serving directly under Muzan, ranked from Upper Moon 1 to Lower Moon 6. Higher number means weaker demon. Lower number means stronger demon. Simple, right? Wrong. The demon hierarchy creates more problems than it solves. Let's start with the basic structure. The 12 Kizuki are split into two groups. Upper Moons, ranked 1 through 6, are the elite. Lower Moons, also ranked 1 through 6, are the junior members. The gap between Upper and Lower Moons is supposed to be massive. Upper Moons are the real threats. Lower Moons are fodder. The anime makes this distinction very clear in one of its most memorable scenes. After the events of the Nadagumo mountain arc, Muzan summons the remaining Lower Moons to the Infinity Castle. He's angry. The Lower Moons have been failing. They keep dying to demon slayers. They're embarrassing him. So what does Muzan do? He kills almost all of them himself. One by one, the Lower Moons die at their master's hands. Only Enmu, Lower Moon 1, survives by expressing genuine excitement at being killed by Muzan. His twisted enthusiasm amuses Muzan enough to spare him and give him more power. This scene establishes that Lower Moons are disposable. Muzan doesn't value them. They're weak enough that losing them means nothing to his plans. The real power lies with the Upper Moons, who haven't been replaced in over a century because nobody dies. Okay, so Upper Moons are dramatically stronger than Lower Moons. Upper Moon 1 is stronger than Upper Moon 2. Upper Moon 2 is stronger than Upper Moon 3. The hierarchy should give us a clear power ladder to understand demon strength. Except the anime keeps showing us things that contradict this ladder. The Entertainment District arc introduces Upper Moon 6, who turns out to be two demons sharing the rank. Daki and Gyutaro. They're siblings who became demons together. Daki handles most of the early fighting. She's beautiful, vain, and cruel. She seems threatening at first. Then Tengen arrives and calls her weak. "You're not Upper Moon material," he tells her. This is a direct statement from a Hashira that Daki doesn't belong in the Upper Moon ranks. She's too weak. She's a fraud. The only reason she holds the position is because of her brother. Gyutaro is the real Upper Moon 6. He's the one with genuine power. He's been killing Hashira for over a century. Daki is essentially carried by her brother's strength. Without him, she'd be nothing. This creates immediate confusion. Is Upper Moon 6 strong or weak? The rank belongs to both siblings, but only one of them deserves it. When we compare Upper Moon 6 to other Upper Moons, which sibling are we measuring? If Daki fought alone, would she even beat a Lower Moon? The anime never tells us. The Swordsmith Village arc makes things worse. This arc features Upper Moon 5, Gyoko, and Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. According to the hierarchy, Upper Moon 4 should be stronger than Upper Moon 5. Higher rank means more power, but here's what actually happens. Upper Moon 5 fights Muichiro alone and loses. One Hashira, one demon. Hashira wins. Meanwhile, Upper Moon 4 requires multiple fighters to defeat. Tanjiro, Nezuko, Genya, and Mitsuri all participate in bringing down Hantengu. That's 3 demon slayers plus a demon working together against one Upper Moon. If the hierarchy is correct, Upper Moon 4 being harder to kill than Upper Moon 5 makes sense. Hantengu is stronger, so he requires more effort. Fine. But then we need to ask, how much stronger? Muichiro killed Upper Moon 5 by himself. Upper Moon 4 needed a whole team. Does that mean Hantengu is 4 times stronger than Gyoko? 10 times? 100 times? And here's the real problem. Muichiro, who solo killed Upper Moon 5, is generally not considered the strongest Hashira. Gyome is stronger. Sanemi is probably stronger. Maybe Giyu is stronger. If these stronger Hashira fought Upper Moon 5, they should win even more easily than Muichiro did. So why did Upper Moon 4 need a team? Shouldn't one of the stronger Hashira have been enough? The power gaps stop making sense when you try to map them across both hierarchies. The Mugen Train arc gives us our first look at an Upper Moon in serious combat. Akaza, Upper Moon 3, fights Rengoku. This fight establishes some important facts. Akaza is incredibly fast. Akaza can regenerate from almost any wound. Akaza genuinely respects strong opponents. It also establishes a question that haunts the fandom. Was Akaza fighting at full power? Throughout the battle, Akaza tries to convince Rengoku to become a demon. He praises Rengoku's skills. He offers immortality. He seems more interested in recruitment than killing. When Rengoku refuses and the sun approaches, Akaza flees rather than continuing the fight. Some fans interpret this as evidence that Akaza was holding back. He wanted to turn Rengoku, not destroy him. If Akaza fought seriously from the start, maybe Rengoku would have died faster. Other fans disagree. They argue Akaza's respect was genuine, that Rengoku pushed him hard, that the fight was closer to equal than the outcome suggests. Neither interpretation can be proven. And without knowing Akaza's true power relative to Rengoku, we can't properly scale him against other upper moons or other Hashira. The gap between upper moons also seems inconsistent. Upper Moon 3 is Akaza. Upper Moon 2 is Doma. Upper Moon 1 is Kokushibo. These three are supposedly in ascending order of strength. But how big are the gaps? Is Doma twice as strong as Akaza? 10% stronger? So similar they might as well be equal. The anime shows all three as incredibly dangerous. It doesn't quantify the differences between them. Later revelations suggest Kokushibo, Upper Moon 1, is in a completely different league from the others. He was a demon slayer before becoming a demon. He uses breathing techniques as a demon. He's the twin brother of Yoriichi, the strongest demon slayer who ever lived. His backstory suggests power beyond normal Upper Moon levels. But if Kokushibo is that much stronger, does the hierarchy even mean anything? Is the difference between Upper Moon 1 and Upper Moon 2 larger than the difference between Upper Moon 2 and Upper Moon 6? Are we dealing with a linear progression or an exponential curve? Again, no answers. The hierarchy gives us rankings without power levels. We know the order, but not the scale. The lower moons barely matter at all. Muzan killed most of them in that one scene. The only lower moon we see fight seriously is Enmu in the Mugen train arc, and he fused himself with an entire train to become more powerful. Was that boosted Enmu stronger than he was as a normal lower moon one? Probably. How much stronger? Unknown. Rui, the demon from Natagumo Mountain arc, was lower moon 5. He gave Tanjiro serious trouble before Giyu arrived, but Tanjiro at that point was still a rookie. Does Rui's strength relative to early Tanjiro tell us anything about how he'd compare to late Tanjiro or to any Hashira? Not really. The fundamental issue is that demon rankings tell us order but not magnitude. Knowing that Upper Moon 3 is stronger than Upper Moon 4 is meaningless if we don't know by how much. Knowing that upper moons are stronger than lower moons is meaningless if the gap could be anywhere from significant to infinite. When the fandom tries to build tier lists that include both Hashira and demons, chaos erupts. Where does a marked Hashira rank against an upper moon? The anime shows mixed results depending on which Hashira and which upper moon. There's no consistent rule to apply. Is Gyome stronger than Upper Moon 6? Almost certainly. Is he stronger than Upper Moon 3? Maybe. Is he stronger than Upper Moon 1? Probably not. But where exactly do the lines fall? Nobody knows. The demon hierarchy was supposed to give us structure. Instead, it gave us ranked ambiguity. We know the demons are in a certain order. We have no idea what that order actually means for combat outcomes. Once the demon rankings fall apart under scrutiny, the story leans on one final claim to preserve the stakes. And that's the idea that nobody managed to kill an upper moon for 100 straight years. While we're at it, consider subscribing. It costs nothing and supports everything we're building here. Now back to the next part. Section 6. The 100-year stalemate problem. Here is the single biggest power scaling problem in Demon Slayer. The one that breaks everything else. The one that makes you question the entire foundation of the story. For over 100 years, no upper moon died. Not one. The Demon Slayer Corps, an organization dedicated entirely to killing demons, with elite warriors called Hashira at its peak, failed to kill a single upper moon for more than a century. Then Tanjiro shows up, and suddenly upper moons start dying left and right. This is not a minor inconsistency. This is a fundamental crack in the story's logic that undermines everything we're told about both the demon slayers and the demons they fight. Let me walk through the timeline as the anime presents it. The Entertainment District arc ends with a victory. Gyutaro and Daki, Upper Moon 6, are dead. Tengen is critically injured but alive. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Nezuko all survived. It was brutal. It was bloody. Multiple people almost died, but they won. And then the anime drops the bombshell. This was the first upper moon killed in over 100 years. Think about that for a moment. 100 years. That's multiple generations of demon slayers, dozens of Hashira coming and going, thousands of missions, countless battles, and not a single upper moon fell. The Demon Slayer Corps isn't some small operation. They have infrastructure. They have training programs. They have specialized medical care at the Butterfly Mansion. They have a network of swordsmiths creating custom weapons. They have Kasugai crows for communication. This is an organized military force that has existed for centuries. And for 100 years, their best warriors couldn't kill a single top-tier demon. But then Tanjiro joins, and within maybe 2 years of becoming a demon slayer, he's part of a team that breaks the century-long stalemate. Not just once, multiple times. The Swordsmith Village arc happens shortly after the Entertainment District victory. Upper Moon 5, Gyoko, dies. Upper Moon 4, Hantengu, dies. That's 3 upper moons killed in rapid succession after a century of nothing. How does this make any sense? The anime offers some explanations, but none of them are satisfying. Explanation 1. Tanjiro has sun breathing. He's special. He has access to the original breathing style that other demon slayers don't have. This gives him an advantage that previous generations lacked. Okay, but Tanjiro didn't solo these upper moons. He was part of a team. And more importantly, sun breathing or not, he's still a relatively new demon slayer. He's been doing this for maybe 2 years. Previous Hashira had decades of experience. Are we supposed to believe that 2 years of sun breathing beats 20 years of mastery in any other style? And even if sun breathing is that much better, why didn't anyone else discover it in 100 years? The Kamado family kept the Hinokami Kagura dance alive as a ritual. Someone could have made the connection earlier. The knowledge existed. It was just sitting there, waiting to be rediscovered. Explanation 2. The Demon Slayer mark. When demon slayers push themselves to extreme limits, they can awaken a mark that dramatically increases their power. Tanjiro and several current Hashira manifest this mark. Maybe previous generations didn't. This raises its own problems. The mark apparently spreads through contact. Once one person awakens it, others around them can awaken it too. If marks are this powerful and this contagious, why didn't they spread in previous generations? The anime implies that Tanjiro's father had the mark. He was born with it. So marks existed in recent history. If Tanjiro's father could have the mark, why couldn't other demon slayers of his generation awaken theirs? Why didn't the mark spread then? Explanation 3. Teamwork. Upper moons are so powerful that no single Hashira can defeat them. You need multiple fighters working together. Maybe previous generations didn't coordinate properly. This is the weakest explanation. The Demon Slayer Corps has existed for centuries. They have hierarchies, communication systems, and shared training. Are we supposed to believe that in 100 years, nobody thought to send multiple Hashira against an upper moon? That's basic military strategy. You don't send one soldier against an overwhelming threat. You send a squad. The Hashira meeting arc at the end of Season 1 shows us 9 current Hashira. They seem skilled. They seem dedicated. But the anime never suggests they're dramatically superior to Hashira from previous generations. If anything, we're told that exceptional fighters have always existed. Gyome isn't the first incredibly strong stone Hashira. Rengoku isn't the first talented flame Hashira. So why couldn't those previous exceptional fighters kill upper moons? The honest answer is narrative convenience. The story needs Tanjiro to be special. It needs him at the center of important events. If upper moons died regularly before his arrival, his contributions would feel less significant. So the story creates a century of failure to make his successes more impressive. Critics call this the center of the world protagonist problem. The entire world seems to be frozen in place until the main character shows up. Nothing meaningful happens without their involvement. History waits for them to arrive before resuming. This is common in battle shonen. Luffy arrives at islands where problems have festered for decades, and suddenly, everything resolves. Naruto appears in situations that have been stuck for years, and suddenly change happens. The protagonist's presence is magically catalytic. But Demon Slayer takes this to an extreme. 100 years of stalemate. 100 years where the Demon Slayer Corps apparently just treaded water, fighting lower moons and random demons without making any progress against the real threats. Then Tanjiro joins, and everything changes. The problem compounds when you think about the implications for previous Hashira. Consider this. Every Hashira who served in that 100-year period faced the same upper moons, the same Akaza, the same Gyutaro, the same Gyoko and Hantengu. These demons lived for centuries, killing Hashira after Hashira. Were all those previous Hashira just incompetent? Were they weaker than the current generation? The anime gives us no reason to think so. Demon Slayer training has been consistent. Breathing techniques have been passed down. The organization has maintained its standards. If previous Hashira were equally skilled to current ones, then the 100-year stalemate suggests upper moons are genuinely unbeatable by Hashira. But if upper moons are unbeatable, how did the current generation beat them? If previous Hashira were somehow less skilled, then the anime should explain why. What changed? Did training improve? Did new techniques develop? Did some breakthrough occur that elevated the current generation above their predecessors? The anime doesn't explain this. It just presents the century of failure as background information and moves on. Some fans try to defend the stalemate by pointing to specific circumstances. Tengen almost died against Upper Moon 6. Muichiro needed to awaken his mark to beat Upper Moon 5. The Upper Moon 4 fight required 4 fighters. These battles were close. Maybe previous attempts were equally close, but ended badly due to minor differences. This defense has some merit. Combat can be decided by small margins. One mistake, one moment of bad luck, and a winnable fight becomes a loss. Maybe previous Hashira came close but never quite succeeded. But over 100 years? Not a single close call that went the right way? Not one upper moon that made a mistake at the wrong moment? Not one team of Hashira that got slightly lucky? The math doesn't work. If upper moons are beatable at all, and the anime shows they are, then 100 years should produce at least one victory through sheer probability. The stalemate being absolute for that long strains believability. There's also the question of why upper moons didn't win more decisively. If they're so much stronger than Hashira, why didn't they wipe out the Demon Slayer Corps entirely? Akaza could apparently find and kill Rengoku on the Mugen train. Why didn't upper moons actively hunt Hashira during that century? Why maintain a stalemate when they could have ended the war? The anime implies upper moons had their own priorities. Akaza wanted to fight strong opponents. Doma enjoyed psychological games. Gyutaro lived in the entertainment district. They weren't focused on systematically destroying the core. But Muzan exists. Muzan controls the demons. Muzan wants to find the blue spider lily and achieve true immortality. The Demon Slayer Corps opposes him. Why didn't Muzan order his upper moons to eliminate this opposition over a 100-year period? The execution of the lower moons shows Muzan is willing to be ruthless with his subordinates. He killed 5 of them in one meeting for being useless. If he wanted the core destroyed, he could have commanded the upper moons to make it happen. Instead, we get a century of stalemate where neither side achieves anything meaningful. It's dramatically convenient, but logically hollow. The stalemate problem reveals something uncomfortable about Demon Slayer's structure. The story wants stakes without consequences. It wants us to feel that upper moons are terrifying threats, while also believing our heroes can defeat them. It wants the 100-year failure to establish danger while immediately undoing that failure to establish hope. You can't have both. Either upper moons are genuinely beyond Hashira level, in which case the current victories need much better explanation, or upper moons are within Hashira reach, in which case the century of failure makes no sense. The anime chose drama over logic. It chose the emotional impact of first upper moon killed in 100 years over the coherent world building that statement implies. And now we're left trying to make sense of a power structure that fundamentally contradicts itself. Upper moons are simultaneously unbeatable for generations and beatable by current characters. Previous Hashira are simultaneously skilled warriors and total failures. The world is simultaneously dangerous and conveniently waiting for Tanjiro to fix everything. This is the 100-year stalemate problem, and it poisons every other power scaling discussion because it breaks the foundation of what any character is actually capable of. But if you're still not convinced that the power scaling is broken, there's one more issue to address. The question of why Tanjiro specifically is the one breaking this stalemate. And the answer the anime gives is not hard work or clever strategy. It's destiny. Tanjiro is special because he was born special. and that creates its own set of problems. And when you strip away every excuse the story gives for breaking that stalemate, what you're left with is one uncomfortable conclusion. Tanjiro is winning because he was born different. Section 7. Tanjiro's Chosen One Problem. Let me tell you two different stories about Tanjiro Kamado. Story 1. A boy loses his family to demons. His sister becomes a demon herself. With nothing but determination and love for his sister, he trains for 2 years under a harsh master. He learns water breathing through grueling practice. He enters final selection and survives through skill he earned. He joins the Demon Slayer Corps and slowly grows stronger through experience and hard work. Every victory comes from effort. Every power-up comes from training. He represents the idea that anyone can become strong if they try hard enough. Story 2. A boy is born into a special family. His ancestors knew the legendary swordsman Yoriichi Tsugikuni. His family inherited sun breathing, the original and most powerful breathing style, disguised as a ceremonial dance. His father had the Demon Slayer mark from birth. When Tanjiro faces death, he doesn't overcome it through training or cleverness. He remembers his father's dance and awakens abilities that were always inside him, waiting to emerge. He was always destined to be special. His bloodline made him the chosen one before he ever picked up a sword. Both stories are true, and they contradict each other completely. Episode 19, titled Hinokami, is widely considered the best episode of Demon Slayer's first season. It became a cultural phenomenon. The animation is stunning. The music is emotional. The moment when Tanjiro switches from water breathing to Hinokami Kagura feels triumphant. But look at what actually happens in that episode. Tanjiro is losing to Rui. His sword is broken. His water breathing techniques aren't strong enough to cut through Rui's blood threads. He's about to die. There's no technique he can train, no clever strategy he can use. He's simply outmatched. Then he sees his life flash before his eyes. He remembers his father performing the Hinokami Kagura dance. He remembers his father explaining the special breathing technique that lets you dance forever without exhausting yourself. And suddenly, Tanjiro can use sun breathing. He didn't train for this. He didn't learn it from a master. He didn't gradually develop it over time. He remembered something from his childhood and instantly gained access to the strongest breathing style in existence. This is not an earned power-up. This is inherited destiny activating at the right moment. The Swordsmith Village arc makes the Chosen One narrative even more explicit. We learn about Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the original sun-breathing user. We see flashbacks of Yoriichi meeting Tanjiro's ancestor. We discover that the Kamado family has preserved sun-breathing for generations as the Hinokami Kagura dance. The connection is undeniable. Tanjiro has sun-breathing not because he's talented or hard-working, but because his family was lucky enough to meet Yoriichi centuries ago. His power comes from lineage, not effort. In the Mugen Train arc, Rengoku's father sends a letter that discusses sun-breathing. He mentions that those chosen to wield it are born with a mark on their forehead. Tanjiro has a scar on his forehead that resembles this mark. The word chosen is right there in the text. The anime isn't being subtle about this. Tanjiro was selected by fate before he ever decided to become a demon slayer. Now, some fans defend this by pointing out that Chosen One narratives are common in battle shonen. Naruto had the nine-tailed fox sealed inside him at birth. Ichigo from Bleach inherited powers from multiple supernatural sources. Luffy ate a devil fruit that turned out to be the legendary Nika fruit. These protagonists are all special because of circumstances beyond their control. This defense has merit. The Chosen One trope is everywhere in the genre. Demon Slayer didn't invent it. But there's a difference between a protagonist who is special and works hard, versus a protagonist whose specialness makes hard work irrelevant. Consider Naruto again. Yes, he has the nine-tailed fox, but for most of the original series, that power is a burden, not an advantage. He succeeds early on through determination, creative thinking, and mastering techniques like Shadow Clone Jutsu. The Nine Tails helps him in emergencies, but his core strength comes from never giving up. His specialness supplements his effort rather than replacing it. Tanjiro's sun-breathing doesn't work the same way. When he awakens Hinokami Kagura against Rui, it completely replaces his trained abilities. Water breathing, the style he spent 2 years learning, immediately becomes secondary. His entire growth trajectory shifts from master water breathing to unlock more of my inherited sun breathing. the training montages stop mattering as much. The fundamental logic of the story changes from hard work beats talent to special bloodline beats everything. This creates a retroactive problem with Tanjiro's early struggles. When we watched him train under Urokodaki, we believed his growth came from effort. Now we know he had dormant sun breathing inside him the whole time. Did his hard work actually matter? Or was he always going to unlock his true power eventually? The anime wants us to believe both things simultaneously. Tanjiro earned his skills and inherited his potential. But these ideas sit uncomfortably together. Think about what sun breathing represents in the story's power structure. It's the original breathing style. All other styles are derivatives, created because sun breathing was too difficult for most people to learn. Sun breathing is explicitly the strongest. And Tanjiro has access to it because of his family, not because he trained harder than other demon slayers, not because he figured out some secret technique, because his great-great-grandfather met the right person centuries ago. How is any other demon slayer supposed to compete with that? Zenitsu mastered thunder-breathing first form through relentless practice. Inosuke created his own beast breathing through pure instinct and survival. These are earned achievements, but neither of them can access sun breathing because they weren't born into the right family. The Hashira trained for years, sometimes decades, to reach their level. They represent the peak of what hard work can achieve in this world. But Tanjiro, within 2 years of becoming a demon slayer, has access to techniques that none of them can use. Not because he trained more, but because of his bloodline. Some might argue that Tanjiro still needs to develop his sun breathing. He can't just use it perfectly from the start. He struggles with the physical toll it takes on his body. He needs to learn the forms and refine his technique. True, but the potential is there regardless. Other demon slayers can train forever and never access sun breathing because it's not in their bloodline. Tanjiro just needs to unlock what he already has. This distinction matters for the story's themes. Demon Slayer seems to want to celebrate determination and willpower. Characters constantly talk about never giving up, about pushing past limits, about the human spirit overcoming demonic power. These are themes about effort mattering. But then the plot gives Tanjiro inherited abilities that make him uniquely qualified to fight Muzan. The final battle isn't going to be won because Tanjiro tried harder than previous generations. It's going to be won because Tanjiro has sun breathing when they didn't. The 100-year stalemate we discussed earlier connects directly to this problem. Previous Hashira failed against upper moons for a century. Tanjiro's generation succeeds. Why? Not because they trained differently or fought smarter. Because Tanjiro awakened sun breathing, and his presence somehow catalyzed the demon slayer marks appearing in other Hashira. Tanjiro's specialness isn't just about him, it affects everyone around him. He's the chosen one whose existence makes victory possible for the entire Demon Slayer Corps. The anime never fully grapples with this tension. It presents Tanjiro as both an everyman hero and a destined savior, without acknowledging that these are contradictory identities. He's supposed to represent the audience, an ordinary person who becomes extraordinary through effort. But he's also the inheritor of a legendary bloodline with powers no one else can access. You can enjoy Demon Slayer while recognizing this problem. The emotional beats still work. Tanjiro's love for Nezuko is genuine. His determination is admirable. His kindness toward even dying demons shows moral depth. But from a power scaling perspective, the Chosen One problem breaks the story's internal logic. Why should we care about other demon slayers' training when Tanjiro's bloodline matters more? Why should we compare Hashira power levels when sun breathing exists on a completely different tier? Why should we analyze breathing style effectiveness when the only style that really matters was handed to Tanjiro by fate? The Chosen One narrative undermines the entire power structure of the series, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you accept that Tanjiro's victories come down to narrative exceptions rather than a consistent system, it becomes impossible to ignore how many other obvious tools the story quietly forgets, starting with wisteria and poison. Oh, and before we go further, subscribing is free and helps us keep improving these videos. Now let's get back to it. Section 9. The Wisteria and Poison Problem. The Demon Slayer Corps has access to a substance that demons cannot tolerate. Wisteria. This plant repels demons so effectively that it's used to trap them on mountains during final selection. Demons physically cannot pass through areas where wisteria grows. So why doesn't every demon slayer carry Wisteria? This question haunts the series from the final selection arc onward. We see Wisteria used as a barrier on Mount Fujikasane. Demons are trapped there specifically because Wisteria surrounds the mountain and prevents escape. Young demon slayer candidates must survive 7 days inside this Wisteria-ringed zone, fighting demons who cannot flee. The substance works. It's effective. It's available. The core clearly has access to large quantities, enough to maintain barriers around an entire mountain. They understand its properties. They use it strategically. And then, they mostly ignore it for actual combat. Think about what Wisteria could mean for demon-slaying operations. Imagine if every demon slayer carried Wisteria-laced nets or ropes. You encounter a demon, throw the net, and suddenly the demon is trapped. Decapitation becomes much easier when your target can't flee. Imagine Wisteria-treated safe houses, recovery stations where injured members could heal without fear of attack. The Butterfly Mansion already exists as a medical facility where demon slayers recover from injuries. Why isn't it surrounded by Wisteria barriers like Mount Fujikasane? The wiki describes the mansion as often used as a recovery base for injured demon slayers. Yet the anime never shows Wisteria protection around it. Imagine Wisteria smoke bombs. A demon charges at you, you throw the bomb, the demon recoils while you close in for the kill. Support units could create openings for stronger fighters to deliver killing blows. None of this exists in the anime. The Wisteria barrier appears in final selection and then becomes almost irrelevant to actual demon-slaying strategy. The Nadagumo Mountain arc introduces Shinobu Kocho, the insect Hashira. Shinobu has a unique problem among the Hashira. She's physically small and lacks the raw strength to decapitate demons. In a core where decapitation is the only reliable killing method, this seems like a fatal weakness. Her solution is poison. Shinobu coats her blade with Wisteria-based poison that kills demons from the inside. She doesn't need to cut off their heads. She stabs them, injects the poison, and they die as the toxin destroys them internally. Her sword is thin and needle-like, designed specifically for precise injections. This is brilliant problem-solving. It takes an existing resource and applies it in a new way. Shinobu turned her weakness into a unique strength, but her brilliance raises uncomfortable questions about everyone else. Captain M, in his critique video, asked the obvious question. If Wisteria poison works this well, why doesn't every demon slayer use it? Shinobu, who cannot decapitate demons through raw strength, has been killing demons for years using poison. She's a Hashira. She reached the highest rank without the ability that supposedly defines demon slaying. Her method works. So why is she the only one using it? The anime's answer comes through the Taisho-era secrets segment. We learn that Shinobu formulates her poison inside her scabbard. The technique for creating and applying the poison is known only to her and her personal swordsmith. This answer creates more problems than it solves. Why isn't the technique shared? The Demon Slayer Corps is fighting a war for humanity's survival. They lose members constantly. Any advantage that could save lives should be distributed widely. Shinobu developed her poison because she needed it. But she's not the only Demon Slayer with physical limitations. New recruits vary in strength. Some have talent but lack power. Some might excel with poison-based tactics if given the option. The Corps has infrastructure for sharing knowledge. They have the Butterfly Mansion for medical treatment and training. They have the Swordsmith Village for weapons. They have the Hashira Training Arc, where elite fighters share techniques with the broader Corps. Sharing Wisteria poison methods should be trivial, unless we're supposed to believe Shinobu is selfishly hoarding a life-saving technique. That she watches fellow demon slayers die while keeping her effective weapons secret. This contradicts her character. She cares about the Corps. She took in orphan children and trained them at the Butterfly Mansion. She doesn't seem like someone who would let comrades die to protect a formula. The world building simply doesn't hold up. There's the question of scale. Shinobu's poison works on regular demons effectively. Against upper moons, she needs massive quantities. This suggests that even if poison spread to other demon slayers, it might not solve the upper moon problem. Fair enough. But it would still help against lower-level threats. It would still save lives. The fact that poison doesn't instantly kill upper moons doesn't mean it's worthless against everything else. The Corps sends young demon slayers on missions against regular demons constantly. Many die. Poison weapons could improve their survival rates dramatically. Even a partial solution is better than no solution. The wisteria problem represents a broader issue with Demon Slayer's world building. The series introduces tools and resources without thinking through their implications. Breathing techniques exist. Some Demon Slayers use them effectively, but the core doesn't systematically teach total concentration constant to new recruits, even though it dramatically improves combat ability. The rehabilitation training arc reveals this technique to Tanjiro and friends as though it's secret knowledge, when it should be standard curriculum. Wisteria exists. It's demonstrably effective against demons, but the core uses it for one specific purpose and ignores obvious applications. The Demon Slayer mark exists. It dramatically increases power. But mark, awakening apparently requires contact with someone who already has a mark, creating a problem the core never solved in centuries. Until Tanjiro arrived. Each element works in isolation. Breathing techniques make fights exciting. Wisteria creates tension during final selection. The mark creates dramatic power-ups. But they don't fit together into a coherent system where the Demon Slayer core operates logically. For power scaling purposes, this makes assessment difficult. Should we assume Demon Slayers could use Wisteria tactics but choose not to? Should we factor poison availability into hypothetical matchups? Could the 100-year stalemate have been broken earlier if the core simply distributed Shinobu's methods? The anime gives no framework for these questions. It wants us to accept that Wisteria works when the plot needs it, and doesn't exist when the plot needs tension. Poison is Shinobu's special thing, without explaining why it stays her special thing. Good power systems account for available resources. They explain why characters use certain tactics and not others. Demon Slayer introduces resources and then pretends they don't exist outside specific scenes. The wisteria that traps demons on mountains never becomes standard equipment. The poison that lets Shinobu kill demons never spreads to other slayers. These gaps make the power structure impossible to analyze consistently. And once you notice how often the core ignores things like poison and better training, it starts to feel like their biggest problem is themselves. Section 10. Training montages that don't add up. Tanjiro's training begins with 2 years on a mountain. 2 years of running, swinging swords, dodging traps, and eventually trying to split a boulder with his blade. His teacher, Urokodaki, puts him through grueling physical conditioning before even teaching him water-breathing techniques. The training is harsh, demanding, and time-consuming. Then Tanjiro joins the Demon Slayer Corps and discovers that half of what he needed to know was never taught to him. The final selection arc establishes Tanjiro's training foundation. Urokodaki is a former water Hashira who retired to train new Demon Slayers. He should know exactly what skills a Demon Slayer needs to survive. He had years to prepare Tanjiro for combat. Yet when Tanjiro reaches the rehabilitation training arc at the Butterfly Mansion, he discovers total concentration constant. This technique involves maintaining total concentration breathing at all times, even while sleeping. It dramatically improves physical capabilities. It's apparently a major factor in reaching Hashira-level strength, and nobody told him about it. Urokodaki trained Tanjiro for 2 years. He taught him 10 water-breathing forms. He tested him with increasingly difficult challenges. But he never mentioned that maintaining breathing constantly would make him significantly stronger. Tanjiro had to learn this from Shinobu's assistants at the Butterfly Mansion, months after becoming a Demon Slayer. Why? The anime offers no explanation. Urokodaki simply didn't teach it. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he thought Tanjiro would figure it out himself. Maybe the author hadn't invented the concept yet when writing the early chapters. Whatever the reason, the result is that Tanjiro spent 2 years in incomplete training. This pattern repeats throughout the series. Information that should be standard curriculum gets treated as secret knowledge. The Hashira training arc near the end of the anime shows what proper, systematic training looks like. Every remaining Demon Slayer goes through intensive training with each Hashira. They learn stamina from one, speed from another, techniques from a third. The entire core gets stronger together. Why didn't this happen earlier? The Demon Slayer Corps has existed for centuries. They've been fighting demons for generations. They should have optimized their training programs long ago. Every technique that makes Demon Slayers more effective should be taught to every recruit from day one. Instead, we see individual trainers teaching individual students with no apparent coordination. Urokodaki teaches his students on a mountain. Rengoku's father taught students somewhere else. Each trainer has their own methods, their own standards, their own gaps in curriculum. The final selection arc itself reveals problems with the training pipeline. Candidates are sent to a mountain surrounded by wisteria, locked in with demons for 7 days, and told to survive. Those who live become demon slayers. Those who die become statistics. This is a selection process, not a training program. The candidates aren't taught how to fight the specific demons on that mountain. They just thrown in and expected to figure things out. How many capable candidates died because they lacked information that the Corps could have provided? How many potential Hashira never made it past final selection because nobody told them basic survival tactics? The training logic gets stranger when we examine Tanjiro's specific teachers. During the final selection arc, we learn that Sabito and Makomo, two ghost children, helped train Tanjiro after Urokodaki's initial instruction. They appeared to him during his boulder-splitting training and guided him toward success. But Sabito and Makomo died during their own final selection. They never became demon slayers. They never mastered the techniques they were teaching Tanjiro. They couldn't split the boulder themselves. Yet somehow their guidance helped Tanjiro succeed where they failed. One Reddit critique raised a pointed question about this. If Tanjiro was taught chess exclusively by kids who never won a game, how good at chess would you expect him to be? The logic seems backwards. Teachers should know more than students, not less. There's a counter-argument here. Athletic coaches don't need to be better athletes than the people they train. LeBron James's coaches can't outplay him on the court, but they can still improve his game. Teaching and performing are different skills. This defense has some merit. Sabito and Makomo might have understood techniques intellectually, even if they couldn't execute them physically. They might have seen where Tanjiro was making mistakes that they also made. Their failure could have been due to circumstances beyond technique, like Sabito's sword dulling at the wrong moment. But the anime doesn't make this argument. It presents Sabito and Makomo as helpful guides, without addressing the logical problems. We're supposed to accept that ghost children who failed their own test can teach Tanjiro to pass his. The Corps' approach to information sharing is baffling when examined systematically. Total concentration constant isn't classified information. There's no reason to hide it. It's a training technique that makes demon slayers better at their jobs. Yet Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke all discover it at the Butterfly Mansion as though it's some revelation. The girls training them at the mansion use total concentration constant casually. They're not even demon slayers. They're support staff at a medical facility. If non-combatants know this technique, why don't fresh recruits learn it during basic training? Breathing techniques themselves seem poorly distributed. Tanjiro learned water breathing from Urokodaki. Zenitsu learned thunder breathing from his grandfather figure. Inosuke invented his own beast breathing without any training at all. None of them learned from the Corps itself. The organization that employs them and sends them on life-threatening missions didn't provide their fundamental combat training. They arrived already knowing techniques they picked up from independent sources. Compare this to any real military organization. When you join an army, they train you. They don't wait for you to show up with combat skills you learned somewhere else. They have standardized programs that every recruit goes through. The Demon Slayer apparently has no standardized breathing technique curriculum. You either find a trainer independently, inherit family techniques, or figure things out yourself. The organization benefits from your skills without investing in your development. The Hashira training arc tries to fix this problem too late in the story. Suddenly, the Hashira are directly training every member of the Corps. Suddenly, systematic skill sharing is happening. Suddenly, the organization acts like it cares about developing its members. Why now? The anime's answer is that the final battle is approaching. Muzan is moving. The Corps needs everyone at maximum strength, so they finally implement the training program they should have had all along. This is narratively convenient, but logically frustrating. If Hashira training makes demon slayers dramatically stronger, and it clearly does, that training should have been standard for centuries. Every year without it meant demon slayers dying who could have survived. The 100-year stalemate against Upper Moons connects to this training failure. Maybe previous generations couldn't kill Upper Moons because they weren't properly trained. Maybe the Corps was leaving power on the table through inefficient development programs. Maybe systematic Hashira training would have produced stronger demon slayers who could have broken the stalemate decades earlier. The anime never explores this possibility. It treats the Hashira training arc as a special event, rather than an obvious improvement that should have been implemented long ago. For power scaling purposes, the training problems create uncertainty about character capabilities. When we assess a demon slayer's strength, should we account for the training they didn't receive? Is Tanjiro weaker than he could be because Urokodaki didn't teach total concentration constant? Are other demon slayers weaker because they never got Hashira-level instruction? If training is this inconsistent, power levels become partly a function of luck. The demon slayer who happened to find a good teacher outperforms the one who didn't. Individual potential matters less than the random chance of quality instruction. This undermines the hard work leads to strength narrative that Battle Shonen typically promotes. In Demon Slayer, hard work helps, but having the right teacher helps more. And finding the right teacher seems largely accidental rather than earned. The training system is incoherent. Information is withheld for no reason. Quality instruction is distributed randomly. The organization responsible for fighting demons doesn't systematically develop demon slayers, and the anime treats all of this as normal, until it suddenly decides to fix it in the final arc. And once you see how broken the core's training system is, it naturally raises a bigger question. If the foundation is this shaky, how much of these characters' strength is really earned versus just handed to them by the story? Quick side note, subscribing is free and helps us improve these videos for you all. Anyway, let's get back to it. Section 11. The flawless character debate. Tanjiro and Rengoku. One of the most common criticisms of Demon Slayer is that its protagonist is too perfect. Tanjiro Kamado is kind, brave, determined, and moral. He loves his family unconditionally. He treats even demons with compassion. He never wavers from his goals. He seems designed to be impossible to dislike. Captain M's critique video voiced this complaint directly. Tanjiro doesn't have flaws. He's a perfect ray of sunshine. He's too good to be interesting. This criticism contains some truth and some error. The anime actually does establish Tanjiro's flaws. It just doesn't always make those flaws matter. The final selection arc introduces Tanjiro's primary weakness immediately. When Urokodaki first meets him, the former Hashira observes that Tanjiro is too kind for his own good. This kindness makes him hesitate against enemies. It slows his killing instinct. It could get him killed. This observation proves accurate during final selection itself. Tanjiro encounters the Hand Demon, a massive creature responsible for killing many of Urokodaki's students, including Sabito and Makomo. This demon murdered the ghost children who helped train Tanjiro. It taunts him about their deaths. It represents everything Tanjiro should want to destroy, and Tanjiro hesitates. He hesitates so long that the sun rises. He hesitates so long that sunlight kills the Hand Demon instead of his blade. Tanjiro's excessive compassion prevented him from delivering the killing blow in time. His stated flaw manifested in a concrete moment. This is good character writing. The story tells us Tanjiro is too kind, then shows us that kindness causing problems. The flaw exists and has consequences, but then the pattern becomes inconsistent. As the series progresses, Tanjiro's kindness rarely causes serious problems. He shows compassion to dying demons, but this usually happens after he's already won. He hesitates occasionally, but allies cover for him, or circumstances resolve themselves. The flaw that could get him killed becomes more of a personality trait than a genuine weakness. By the Entertainment District arc and Swordsmith Village arc, Tanjiro fights with determination and effectiveness. His kindness appears in quiet moments, offering sympathy to defeated enemies, but it doesn't undermine his combat performance. The boy who couldn't kill the Hand Demon before sunrise becomes a fighter who can challenge upper moons. Did he overcome his flaw through growth? Perhaps, but the anime doesn't really track this development. Tanjiro doesn't struggle with his compassion in later fights the way he did in Final Selection. The flaw just matters less as the story continues. The anime establishes other Tanjiro flaws that similarly fade over time. He breaks his swords constantly, representing impulsiveness and lack of control. This is treated mostly as comic relief with his angry swordsmith Haganezuka, rather than a serious combat limitation. He keeps Nezuko alive despite her being a demon, which other characters correctly identify as a violation of core rules and basic safety. But Nezuko never actually endangers anyone. She proves herself trustworthy repeatedly. What should be a morally complex decision becomes validated by events. Captain M's criticism isn't entirely wrong. Tanjiro feels flawless not because he lacks stated weaknesses, but because those weaknesses rarely cost him anything significant. The story protects him from the consequences that would make his flaws meaningful. Rengoku presents a different character writing problem entirely. The Mugen Train arc introduces Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. He's energetic, passionate, and powerful. He says, "Umai!" enthusiastically while eating. He encourages Tanjiro with genuine warmth. He fights Akaza with everything he has. And then he dies. Rengoku appears and dies in the same arc. For anime-only viewers, he exists for approximately 7 episodes. He has 1 extended fight, 1 backstory, and 1 death scene. Critics argue this makes Rengoku an incomplete character. We meet him, we like him, and then he dies before we can truly know him. His death is designed to be emotional, but we haven't spent enough time with him for the emotion to feel fully earned. The anime tries to compensate by delivering Rengoku's backstory in concentrated doses. During and after his death, we learn about his family. His mother died when he was young. His father, Shinjuro, was once a great flame Hashira, but became an alcoholic after his wife's death. Rengoku had to teach himself flame breathing from books because his father abandoned training him. This is genuinely compelling material. A boy whose father gave up on him, who raised himself as a warrior through pure determination, who maintained his positive attitude despite family tragedy. Rengoku has depth. But we receive this depth posthumously. The backstory arrives as Rengoku is dying, or already dead. We learn who he was at the moment we're losing him. The Hashira training arc continues this pattern. Rengoku's brother Senjuro appears, sharing more memories and context about Kyojuro. We learn more about his training philosophy, his relationships with other Hashira, his impact on people around him. All of this comes after his death. Rengoku is developed retroactively, through other characters' memories, rather than through lived experience in the story. Some fans defend this approach. Death creating absence that others fill is a valid narrative technique. Learning about someone through grief can be more powerful than knowing them directly. Rengoku's posthumous development reflects how loss actually works. This defense has merit. But it also means Rengoku never had the chance to be flawed in real time. We never saw him make mistakes. We never saw his excessive passion cause problems. We never saw him struggle with his father's abandonment in a present tense conflict. Rengoku's character is assembled from positive memories. Everyone loved him. Everyone admired him. Everyone was inspired by him. There's no one who resented him, disagreed with him, or saw his weaknesses clearly. Compare this to how we experience Tanjiro. We watch Tanjiro make mistakes. We see his flaws in action. We follow his journey with its ups and downs. Even if his weaknesses don't always matter, they exist in real-time narrative. Rengoku's flaws, if he had any, are never shown. His struggles are told through flashback, not demonstrated through story. He's presented as inspirational because inspiration requires perfection. The flawless character criticism applies differently to these two. Tanjiro has stated flaws that don't affect the plot enough. Rengoku has no stated flaws because he dies before the story can explore them. Both situations create power scaling problems. For Tanjiro, we can't accurately assess his limitations because those limitations rarely matter. Is his compassion a combat weakness or just a personality quirk? The answer depends on which scene you're watching. Early Tanjiro seems genuinely hampered by kindness. Later Tanjiro seems to have overcome it without explanation. For Rengoku, we can't assess him at all because we never saw him challenged in ways that revealed limitations. His fight with Akaza is our only real data point, and that fight ends in his death. Was Rengoku close to Akaza's level, or was Akaza toying with him? We can't know because we never saw Rengoku fight anyone else at that tier. The fandom debates Rengoku's power level endlessly for exactly this reason. Some place him near the top of Hashira rankings because he impressed Akaza. Others place him lower because he died while later Hashira survived similar challenges. There's not enough information to resolve the argument. Character flaws in battle shonen serve a power scaling purpose. They establish limitations. They explain why characters can't just solve every problem immediately. They create tension because we know where heroes might fail. When flaws don't matter, power ceilings become unclear. Tanjiro's kindness should occasionally cost him victories. It doesn't, so we can't factor it into assessments. When characters lack flaws entirely, they become impossible to scale. Rengoku's potential was infinite because nothing ever checked it. He could have grown to any level if he survived. His actual level remains unknowable. Good character writing and good power scaling require the same thing. Meaningful limitations, consistent weaknesses, flaws that have consequences. Demon Slayer tells us its characters have flaws. It doesn't always show those flaws affecting outcomes. The result is characters who feel perfect, even when they technically aren't, and power levels that can't be pinned down because stated weaknesses don't reliably apply. And once you realize how rarely character flaws actually change outcomes, it becomes easier to see the same pattern repeating elsewhere, especially in how the story handles its villains. Section 12. The Demon Backstory Formula. Demon Slayer has a pattern. You've probably noticed it even if you've never consciously thought about it. A demon appears. The demon threatens our heroes. The demon seems evil, cruel, monstrous. A fight happens. The demon loses. And then, as the demon dies, we get a flashback showing their tragic human past. Fight, defeat, flashback, sympathy, death. This formula repeats so consistently that you can predict it. The moment a demon's head separates from their body, you know what's coming. Sad music, sepia-toned memories, a story about abuse, poverty, rejection, or loss. The monster was once a victim. The audience is supposed to feel something. The Natagumo Mountain arc gives us Rui. Throughout the arc, Rui is terrifying. He controls a fake family of spider demons through fear and violence. He mutilates family members who disappoint him. He tries to steal Nezuko to replace his current sister. He's a villain. Then Tanjiro cuts off his head, and we learn Rui's history. He was a sickly human child. His parents loved him but couldn't cure his illness. Muzan offered him demon blood as salvation. Rui accepted, became a demon, and killed his parents when they tried to kill him to stop his transformation. His obsession with family makes sense now. He destroyed his real family and has been trying to recreate it ever since. The monster has a tragic origin. The Entertainment District arc follows the same pattern with more complexity. Gyutaro and Daki are introduced as cruel upper moon demons. Daki is vain and murderous. Gyutaro is bitter and sadistic. They kill without remorse. Then they die, and we see their childhood. Gyutaro was born in the lowest district of the Entertainment District. He was ugly, starving, and despised. His sister Daki was his only source of meaning. When Daki was burned alive by a samurai, Gyutaro carried her charred body through the streets until Doma, Upper Moon 2, offered them demon blood. Their cruelty reflects their suffering. Their bond as demons mirrors their bond as desperate siblings. The villains become sympathetic. The Swordsmith Village arc gives Hantengu a backstory too, though his is different. Hantengu was a criminal in his human life. He lied, cheated, stole, and murdered. When caught, he blamed everyone but himself. His backstory doesn't generate sympathy. It confirms that he was always awful. This variation is interesting. Hantengu's flashback doesn't redeem him. It explains him without excusing him. Some demons were victims who became monsters. Others were monsters who became demons. But the formula remains. Fight, defeat, flashback, death. The structure is predictable, even when the content varies. The Mugen Train arc partially breaks the pattern. Enmu, Lower Moon 1, gets minimal backstory. We know he's sadistic and enjoys torturing people through dreams. We know Muzan gave him extra blood for showing proper devotion, but we don't see his human life. We don't learn what tragedy shaped him. Enmu dies without a sympathetic flashback. He's just evil, and then he's dead. This feels unusual precisely because the formula is so established. We expect tragic backstory. When it doesn't come, the absence is noticeable. The Asakusa arc offers a different exception. Tamayo and Yushiro are demons who oppose Muzan. They're developed as characters while alive, not through death flashbacks. We learn about Tamayo's history with Muzan, her medical research, her goals. We see Yushiro's devotion to Tamayo play out in real-time scenes. These characters prove that demon development doesn't require the death flashback formula. You can establish demon characters through present-tense storytelling. You can show their personalities and histories through dialogue and action rather than posthumous memory. But Tamayo and Yushiro are allies, not antagonists. The antagonist demons almost universally follow the formula. Critics argue that this pattern substitutes for genuine character development. The demons aren't developed throughout their arcs, they're explained at the end. We don't see their complexity during the fight. We're told about it after they've already lost. One Reddit critique put it bluntly: nothing is done with that concept. The backstories don't change outcomes. Learning that Rui had a tragic childhood doesn't save him. Learning about Gyutaro's suffering doesn't alter his defeat. The information arrives too late to affect anything. Tanjiro's reaction is the only outcome the backstories influence. He feels sympathy for dying demons. He holds their hands as they fade. He acknowledges their pain. This is touching character work for Tanjiro. It reinforces his excessive kindness. But the demons themselves get nothing from this. They don't grow. They don't change. They don't choose differently based on their histories. They simply die with context. Compare this to antagonists in other series who develop through present-tense conflict. Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z starts as a villain, is defeated, and then slowly evolves through subsequent arcs. His backstory matters because it informs choices he makes going forward. Pain in Naruto explains his philosophy before his fight with Naruto, allowing actual dialogue and ideological conflict. Demon Slayer's demons don't have this opportunity. They're introduced as threats, fought as obstacles, and humanized only at the moment of death. The formula prevents any relationship between hero and villain beyond violence followed by sympathy. This connects to power scaling in an unexpected way. When demons lack development before their defeat, their power becomes their only defining characteristic. Rui is threatening because he's strong. Gyutaro is dangerous because he's powerful. Hentengu is a challenge because he's Upper Moon 4. Their personalities emerge only after their threat is neutralized. Before that, they're essentially power levels with monster designs. Their complexity is hidden until they're already beaten. This means the fights lack personal stakes beyond survival. Tanjiro isn't fighting someone he knows, someone with understandable goals, someone whose philosophy challenges his own. He's fighting a power level. Only afterward does he learn who he was actually fighting. The structure flattens the dramatic possibilities. Imagine if Tanjiro knew Rui's backstory before their fight. Imagine if he understood Rui's desperate need for family. The fight could have been about something beyond who's stronger. Tanjiro could have appealed to Rui's humanity. Rui could have responded with bitter rejection. The battle could have been ideological as well as physical. Instead, the fight is purely combat. The ideology comes only as Rui fades away. Too late for Tanjiro to do anything with it besides feel sad. The formula also creates predictability that undermines tension. Once you recognize the pattern, you know exactly what's coming. The demon will die, and you'll get a sad flashback. The question isn't whether you'll feel sympathy. The question is whether you care about manipulated sympathy. Some viewers find the formula emotionally effective regardless. They cry when Rui remembers his parents. They feel for Gyutaro and Daki despite their murders. The technique works on an emotional level even when recognized intellectually. Others find it manipulative. The backstory drops like clockwork to generate specific feelings at specific moments. The manipulation is visible. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. For power scaling discussions, the formula means demon characterization is almost entirely separate from demon combat. We assess demons based on their fighting abilities because that's what we see during their active presence in the story. Their personalities, motivations, and histories arrive too late to factor into how they fight. Gyutaro's bitterness should inform his combat style. His hatred of the privileged should manifest in how he chooses targets, makes decisions, exploits weaknesses. Instead, he's a tactical threat during the fight and a tragic figure during the flashback. The two aspects barely connect. If Demon Slayer developed its demons before their deaths, we could factor psychology into power scaling. A demon with specific emotional weaknesses might be exploitable. A demon with particular motivations might be predictable. Character depth could translate to combat analysis. The formula prevents this integration. Demons remain mysteries until they're already defeated. Their deaths explain them rather than their lives. We scale their power without understanding their minds. This is efficient storytelling in some ways. Every demon gets just enough characterization to generate emotion without slowing down the action. The formula delivers regular emotional beats without requiring extended setup. But efficiency isn't the same as depth, and the pattern has become so recognized that it's basically a meme in the fandom. People joke about waiting for the sad backstory when a demon starts dying. The technique has lost surprise even if it hasn't lost emotional impact. Demon Slayer's demons are power levels first and characters second. The formula ensures this by delaying character development until the power level has been neutralized. We fight strength. We mourn people. The two are kept separate by design. And while we've seen how Demon Slayer's formula shapes its demons, next we'll break down what the series does right and why the animation elevates the story. And if you're enjoying this, subscribe. It really helps us keep creating for this community. Okay, back to the content. Section 13. What Demon Slayer actually does well. The animation question. After 12 sections of criticism, let me be clear about something. Demon Slayer is not a bad series. It's not garbage carried by pretty colors. It's not a failure elevated by studio magic. The carried by animation criticism is popular and partially correct, but it misses something important about how storytelling works. Yes, Ufotable's animation is extraordinary. Episode 19, the Hinokami episode, became a cultural phenomenon partly because of its visuals. The moment when Tanjiro switches from water-breathing to sun-breathing features animation that people still discuss years later. The flowing fire effects, the dynamic camera movements, the emotional insert song. It's a technical masterpiece. But animation cannot create emotion from nothing. When Tanjiro sees his father's memory and remembers the Hinokami Kagura, the animation enhances a moment that already exists in the story. The setup is there. Tanjiro is losing. His sword is broken. His opponent is stronger. He's about to die protecting his sister. Then he remembers his father's words, accesses power he didn't know he had, and turns the fight around. This is a classic shonen beat. The hero pushed to the limit, drawing on hidden reserves, achieving victory through willpower and connection to loved ones. The story provides the structure. The animation provides the spectacle. You cannot animate a scene that isn't written. You cannot make audiences cry about characters who don't exist on the page. You cannot create emotional investment through visuals alone. The Mugen Train arc proves this decisively. The movie became the highest-grossing anime film of all time until recently. It broke records that had stood for decades. It outperformed every other film released in 2020, globally. Did people watch Mugen Train purely for the animation? Some probably did. But the movie also tells a complete emotional story. Rengoku is introduced, developed, and killed in a satisfying arc. His death carries weight because the story gives him meaningful connections to Tanjiro and the themes of determination and sacrifice. If Mugen Train were visually stunning but emotionally empty, it wouldn't have become a cultural phenomenon. Plenty of beautifully animated projects fail commercially. Visual quality alone doesn't guarantee success. The Entertainment District arc finale demonstrates the combination working together. The fight against Gyutaro and Daki is visually spectacular. But it's also dramatically effective because the stakes are clear. Tengen is poisoned. Tanjiro is exhausted. Multiple characters are on the verge of death. The animation shows us gorgeous combat, while the story makes us care who wins. When the arc ended and trended worldwide, people weren't just sharing clips of cool attacks. They were discussing character moments. They were emotional about Tengen's sacrifice. They were invested in outcomes. The spectacle and the story reinforced each other. Critics who say Demon Slayer is carried by animation are making a specific claim. They're saying the underlying story is weak and only the visuals make it watchable. This claim deserves examination. What does Demon Slayer's story actually do well? First, the emotional core is clear and consistent. Tanjiro wants to save his sister. He wants to defeat Muzan. He wants to be kind in a cruel world. These motivations are simple but effective. We always know what Tanjiro wants and why he wants it. Second, the sibling relationship between Tanjiro and Nezuko is genuinely touching. Their bond provides emotional grounding throughout the series. When Nezuko protects Tanjiro, when Tanjiro fights to cure her, these moments land because the relationship has been established and maintained. Third, the supporting cast has distinct personalities. Zenitsu is cowardly and lovesick. Inosuke is aggressive and competitive. Each Hashira has recognizable traits and quirks. These aren't the deepest characters in anime, but they're memorable and differentiated. Fourth, the themes are accessible. Determination beats talent. Kindness matters. Family is worth fighting for. These aren't revolutionary ideas, but they resonate with broad audiences because they're universally relatable. Fifth, the pacing is generally effective. Arcs don't overstay their welcome. Fights don't drag on for dozens of episodes. The story moves forward with purpose. None of these qualities require exceptional animation to work. They're writing choices that create a solid foundation. The criticism should be more specific. Demon Slayer's writing isn't broken, it's shallow. There's a difference. Broken writing fails at basic storytelling, plot holes that destroy immersion, characters who act inconsistently, themes that contradict themselves. Broken writing makes a story unenjoyable regardless of other qualities. Shallow writing succeeds at basic storytelling without achieving depth. Simple themes explored simply. Characters with clear traits but limited growth. Plots that entertain without challenging. Shallow writing is competent but unambitious. Demon Slayer is shallow. Its themes don't evolve or complicate. Its characters don't surprise us with hidden depths. Its plot follows genre conventions without subverting them. This is a valid criticism. But shallow stories can still be good. Not every story needs to be profound. Not every anime needs to challenge its audience philosophically. Sometimes you want simple entertainment executed well. The animation elevates shallow writing into spectacular entertainment. It takes competent emotional beats and makes them unforgettable. It transforms simple fight choreography into artistic achievement. It adds layers of visual storytelling to straightforward narrative. This is what great animation should do. It shouldn't compensate for bad writing. It should enhance good enough writing into something special. Consider the manga sales explosion. Demon Slayer's manga existed for years before the anime. It was successful, but not phenomenally so. Then the anime aired, and manga sales exploded. People who watched the anime went back to read the source material. If the anime were purely carried by animation, this wouldn't happen. The manga doesn't have Ufotable's visuals. It has the story, the characters, the emotional beats. People who loved the anime loved it enough to seek out a version without the animation. This suggests the story itself has value. The animation drew people in. The story kept them invested. The reverse also provides evidence. Other beautifully animated anime have failed to achieve Demon Slayer's success. Ufotable itself has produced other projects with similar visual quality that didn't become cultural phenomena. Animation quality is necessary but not sufficient for massive success. The real answer is that animation and story work together. They're not separable in the way the carried by animation criticism implies. You can't have Demon Slayer's success with only one component. A version of Demon Slayer with mediocre animation would be less successful. The fights wouldn't be as memorable. The emotional peaks wouldn't hit as hard. The visual identity wouldn't be as distinctive. A version of Demon Slayer with no emotional story would also fail. You can't animate investment. You can't draw character development. The visuals need something to enhance. For power scaling discussions, this matters because it affects how we evaluate the series. If Demon Slayer were truly broken writing saved by animation, we could dismiss its narrative choices. But if the writing is functional and the animation enhances it, we should engage with the story as presented. The power scaling problems I've discussed throughout this essay are real. The breathing system lacks mechanical depth. The hierarchy is inconsistent. The chosen one narrative undermines the training themes. These are legitimate criticisms. But they're criticisms of a functional story, not a broken one. Demon Slayer works emotionally even when it doesn't work logically. The power scaling is flawed, but the emotional beats land. The character development is shallow, but the characters are likable. Most viewers don't care about power scaling. They care about whether they feel something when Rengoku dies. They care about whether they root for Tanjiro to save Nezuko. They care about whether the fights are exciting. Demon Slayer delivers on these fronts. That's why it's successful. That's why the animation matters. Not because it hides bad writing, but because it amplifies effective writing. The series is elevated by animation. There's a meaningful difference. One implies the story fails without visual support. The other implies the story succeeds, and the visuals make it exceptional. Demon Slayer's writing succeeds at creating an accessible, emotionally resonant, entertaining action series. That's a real achievement. The power scaling problems don't invalidate the achievement. They're separate considerations. You can enjoy Demon Slayer while acknowledging its flaws. You can appreciate the animation while recognizing the story's limitations.
You can love the series while wishing it were deeper.
This isn't hypocrisy. This is normal engagement with imperfect art. Nothing is perfect. Everything has flaws. The question is whether the strengths outweigh the weaknesses. For Demon Slayer, the answer depends on what you're looking for. If you want deep power scaling, you can analyze and debate, you'll be frustrated. If you want emotional entertainment with spectacular presentation, you'll be satisfied.
The series knows what it is.
A simple story told beautifully. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And while we've explored how Demon Slayer balances accessibility with shallow mechanics, next we'll examine how this trade-off shapes the audience's experience and the series' broad appeal. Section 14. The accessibility versus depth trade-off.
Every battle shonen makes a choice about its power system. How complex should the rules be? How much should the audience need to understand before enjoying the fights? How much explanation is too much? There's no right answer.
Different series make different choices, and those choices shape everything about how the story works.
Hunter x Hunter chose depth. Yoshihiro Togashi created the Nen system, one of the most intricate power systems in anime history.
Every Nen user falls into one of 6 categories.
Each category has strengths and weaknesses relative to others. Abilities can be enhanced through conditions and limitations. Matchups matter as much as raw power.
The result is a series where fans can debate fights for hours with actual logical frameworks.
When Kurapika defeats Uvogan, you can explain exactly why he won based on established rules.
His chain jail only works on Phantom Troop members,
a severe limitation that grants the ability enormous power within that constraint. The fight makes sense mechanically, but Hunter x Hunter demands investment.
New viewers must learn categories,
understand conditions, grasp how limitations affect power. The Chimera Ant arc, widely considered the series' peak, requires dozens of episodes to fully appreciate, because the strategic complexity builds over time.
This complexity alienates casual viewers.
People who just want to watch cool fights get lost in explanations. The entry barrier is high. Hunter x Hunter rewards deep engagement but punishes surface-level watching.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure took a different approach.
The stand system gives each character a unique supernatural ability with specific rules. Caesar's bubble launcher works completely differently from Jotaro's Star Platinum.
Fights become puzzles where characters must figure out how enemy abilities work and find counters.
This creates memorable, creative battles. But it's also confusing. New viewers struggle to track what each stand does.
The rules change character to character.
There's no unified framework, just individual ability sets that need individual explanation. JoJo fans love this creativity. Casual viewers find it exhausting to keep up. Dragon Ball Z went simple.
Power levels are numbers.
Higher number wins. Goku trains. His power level increases. He beats the next villain. The system is transparent and easy to follow. This simplicity works. Dragon Ball Z became one of the most popular anime globally.
Anyone can watch a fight and understand the stakes.
Goku's power level is lower than Frieza's, so he needs to get stronger. He achieves Super Saiyan. His power level exceeds Frieza's. He wins. No complex explanations required.
But Dragon Ball Z's simplicity created its own problems.
Power levels became meaningless when numbers got too large. The system stopped providing useful information when characters reached billions and trillions.
Simple can become dysfunctional if pushed too far.
Demon Slayer positioned itself differently from all of these.
The breathing system looks like it provides structure,
with named forms and elemental themes, but actually offers minimal mechanical depth. Different styles don't have clear advantages or disadvantages.
The hierarchy between demons exists, but gaps are undefined.
The system is simple, like Dragon Ball Z. But unlike Dragon Ball Z, it doesn't even give us numbers to work with.
We have vague descriptions like
faster or stronger, without any measurement. This makes Demon Slayer easy to watch. You don't need to understand breathing mechanics to enjoy the fights. You just watch beautiful animation and feel emotions.
For new anime viewers, this accessibility matters enormously.
Demon Slayer became a gateway series for millions of people. It introduced them to anime without demanding prior knowledge or deep engagement with complex systems.
Think about what that means.
Someone who has never watched anime before can start Demon Slayer and enjoy it immediately. They don't need to learn categories or track ability conditions. They don't need to remember power level numbers or figure out stand mechanics. They just watch. The final selection arc demonstrates this accessibility. Tanjiro uses water breathing against demons. Water effects appear on screen. He wins or struggles based on how the fight is going. A first-time anime viewer understands everything they need to understand. Compare this to starting Hunter x Hunter blind. The power system doesn't even appear until dozens of episodes in. When it does, you need multiple episodes of explanation before you can properly appreciate nen fights. Demon Slayer skips all of that. Breathing techniques are introduced early, explained briefly, and then the story moves on. The emphasis is on emotion and spectacle, not mechanical complexity. This is a deliberate trade-off. The series sacrifices power scaling coherence for immediate accessibility. It loses the ability to support deep analysis in exchange for broad appeal. Captain M's critique video captured this tension perfectly. At one point he asks something like, "Are our standards this low that this derivative garbage can become a generation-defining piece of media?" He's frustrated that Demon Slayer succeeds despite what he sees as obvious writing flaws. But in the same video, he acknowledges something important. You cannot expect the things you read or watch to be perfect. You cannot expect them to have no flaws. This contradiction reveals the real debate. What standards should we apply to entertainment? What level of depth should we demand? And who gets to decide? For hardcore anime fans who've seen dozens of series, Demon Slayer's simplicity feels like a step backward. They've experienced complex power systems. They know what depth looks like. Demon Slayer's shallow mechanics disappoint them. For new viewers experiencing their first anime, Demon Slayer's simplicity is a feature. They don't miss the complexity they've never known. They enjoy the accessibility that lets them engage immediately. Neither group is wrong. They're applying different standards based on different experiences. The fandom conflict around Demon Slayer often comes down to this clash. Experienced viewers critique the power scaling problems. New viewers wonder why anyone cares about power scaling when the show is clearly about Tanjiro and Nezuko's relationship. Both perspectives are valid. The series genuinely has power scaling problems. The series also genuinely works as emotional entertainment despite those problems. The question becomes whether accessibility justifies the trade-offs. Is it acceptable to have a shallow power system if it makes the series more accessible? Is it okay to sacrifice coherent world building for broad appeal? I don't think there's an objective answer. It depends on what you value. If you love deep power scaling analysis, Demon Slayer will frustrate you. If you love emotional storytelling with beautiful animation, Demon Slayer will satisfy you. The commercial success suggests the accessibility choice was strategically correct. Demon Slayer reached audiences that more complex series couldn't reach. It brought new people into anime fandom. It became a shared cultural experience across demographics. A version of Demon Slayer with Hunter x Hunter's complexity might have been better for power scaling debates, but it probably wouldn't have achieved the same mass appeal. The depth that hardcore fans crave often creates barriers that casual viewers won't climb. This essay has spent many sections criticizing Demon Slayer's power scaling. Those criticisms are accurate. The breathing system is hollow. The hierarchy is inconsistent. The training logic doesn't work. The 100-year stalemate breaks everything. But these criticisms come from a specific perspective. The perspective of someone who cares about power scaling coherence. Not everyone shares this perspective. Not everyone should share this perspective. Entertainment serves different purposes for different people. Some watch anime to analyze. Some watch to feel. Some watch to experience beautiful visuals. Some watch to connect with characters they love. Demon Slayer serves the latter audiences excellently. It serves the former audiences poorly. This is the trade-off. Accessibility for depth. Broad appeal for analytical satisfaction. Understanding this trade-off doesn't eliminate the power scaling problems. The breathing system is still hollow. The hierarchy is still inconsistent. But understanding the trade-off helps explain why these problems exist and why they don't prevent the series from succeeding. Demon Slayer isn't failing at complexity. It's choosing against complexity. Those are different things. Failure implies attempting depth that didn't work. Choice implies deliberate shallowness for strategic reasons. You can disagree with the choice. You can wish the series had chosen differently, but recognizing it as a choice rather than an accident helps frame the criticism fairly. The series knows what it is: an accessible, emotional, visually spectacular action story that doesn't require deep engagement to enjoy.
That's what it set out to be. That's what it achieved.
The power scaling problems are real costs of this approach. The massive success is a real benefit. Whether the trade-off was worth it depends entirely on who you are and what you're looking for.
Having explored how accessibility shapes Demon Slayer's power scaling,
The conclusion brings everything together, showing how the series can be deeply flawed in mechanics, yet still captivate millions.
Section 15.
Conclusion. Can you love something with broken power scaling? We've covered a lot of ground together. 14 sections examining how Demon Slayer's power system works and doesn't work.
Breathing techniques that look beautiful
And mean nothing. A demon hierarchy that creates order without clarity. 100-year stalemate that breaks the moment our protagonist arrives. Training systems that withhold information for no reason.
A chosen one narrative that contradicts the hard work themes.
The power scaling is broken. I've spent tens of thousands of words proving this. The evidence is overwhelming. And yet, Demon Slayer remains one of the most successful anime of all time.
The Infinity Castle film just became the highest-grossing Japanese film ever,
pulling in $780 million worldwide. It broke the record for biggest opening weekend for an international film in the United States.
Critics gave it positive reviews, praising its action sequences and emotional impact.
People love this series. Millions of people. People who have never thought about power scaling for a single moment. People who would find this entire essay baffling. Who cares if thunder breathing is faster? Did you see how cool that fight looked? They're not wrong. The series works despite everything I've discussed. Understanding why requires accepting something uncomfortable about how we engage with fiction.
Power scaling matters to some viewers.
It matters a lot to me, clearly. I've spent hours researching Reddit threads and wiki pages and forum debates. I've mapped out which arcs provide which evidence.
I've constructed arguments about breathing mechanics and demon hierarchies.
But power scaling is one lens among many. Other lenses exist. Emotional resonance, visual artistry, character likability, thematic accessibility, pacing and momentum,
Pure entertainment value.
Demon Slayer excels through most of these other lenses. The sibling bond between Tanjiro and Nezuko is genuine and moving. The animation is industry-leading. The characters are memorable even when shallow.
The themes are simple but universally relatable.
The pacing keeps things moving. The entertainment value is undeniable. When you watch through these lenses instead of the power scaling lens, the series shines.
The problems I've discussed become invisible or irrelevant.
You feel what the story wants you to feel. You enjoy what it wants you to enjoy. This doesn't make the power scaling problems disappear. They still exist.
The breathing system is still hollow.
The stalemate paradox is still illogical. The chosen one contradiction is still present. But fiction doesn't need to be flawless to be enjoyable. We love imperfect things all the time.
Our favorite songs have flaws.
Our favorite movies have plot holes. Our favorite books have pacing issues. We love them anyway because what works outweighs what doesn't.
The question is whether Demon Slayer's strengths outweigh its weaknesses for you personally.
That's not a question I can answer for anyone else. It depends on what you value, what you're looking for, what lenses you naturally apply.
For viewers who prioritize power scaling coherence,
Demon Slayer will always disappoint. The system is too hollow to support serious analysis. The debates will never resolve because the source material doesn't provide answers.
every tier list will be contested forever.
For viewers who prioritize emotional entertainment, Demon Slayer delivers consistently. The fights are exciting. The deaths are sad. The triumphs are satisfying. The experience works.
Most viewers fall somewhere in between.
They notice some problems. They enjoy many moments. They walk away with mixed but positive feelings. This is normal. This is healthy engagement with imperfect art.
The Infinity Castle trilogy offers an interesting test case.
The first film has already released to massive success. 2 more films will follow, adapting the manga's final arc. This is Demon Slayer's endgame. Will the films fix the power scaling problems? Based on what we know, probably not. The manga's ending is already written. The story beats are set. Ufotable can enhance the visuals and pacing, but they can't restructure the fundamental power logic. The Infinity Castle film apparently features Akaza's defeat in detail, with his tragic backstory and eventual acceptance of death. This is the demon backstory formula executed at maximum emotional intensity. Critics noted the flashbacks sometimes slowed the pacing. The pattern continues. Zenitsu defeats his former senior Kaigaku using a self-taught thunder-breathing form. This is a cool character moment. Does it clarify thunder breathing's mechanics relative to other styles? Almost certainly not. The form works because Zenitsu needed it to work. Giyu unlocks his mark during battle. Another power-up through willpower rather than training. The pattern established throughout the series continues into the finale. None of this is bad per se. The emotional beats land. The fights look spectacular. The story progresses toward its conclusion. For most viewers, this will be completely satisfying. For power-scaling obsessives, the finale will likely compound existing problems rather than resolving them. More fights with unclear relative power levels. More victories through determination rather than established mechanics. More questions the story refuses to answer. And you know what? That's fine. The story was never going to become something different in its final act. Demon Slayer committed to accessibility over depth from the beginning. Expecting the finale to suddenly introduce mechanical complexity would be unrealistic. The tier list debates will continue forever. This is actually a feature rather than a bug for community engagement. Unresolvable arguments generate endless content. New videos analyzing the same fights. New Reddit threads making the same arguments. New comment section battles over the same rankings. If the power scaling were clear, these discussions would end. Someone would create the definitive tier list. Everyone would agree, and that would be that. The ambiguity keeps people engaged. The chaos creates community. I've made sleep content about anime for years. You know what makes perfect background noise? Debates that never resolve. Discussions where both sides have evidence. Arguments that could go either way depending on interpretation. Demon Slayer power scaling is ideal sleep content material precisely because the problems exist. You can listen to someone explain why Rengoku is top 3 Hashira. You can drift off during their evidence presentation. You can wake up to someone else explaining why Rengoku is actually mid-tier. Neither is definitively right. The debate is eternal. This is genuinely true. Unresolved debates are more interesting than resolved ones. Open questions are more engaging than closed answers. Demon Slayer's power scaling problems create the conditions for endless fan discussion. So where does this leave us? Demon Slayer's power scaling is broken. I stand by every criticism in this essay. The breathing system is mechanically hollow. The hierarchy is inconsistently applied. The stalemate paradox makes previous generations look incompetent. The Chosen One narrative undermines the training themes. The demon backstory formula substitutes for development. The world building has gaps that never get filled. These are real problems that affect how the story functions on a logical level. But Demon Slayer works anyway. It works emotionally, visually, and commercially. It works for millions of people who don't care about the problems I've outlined. It works as entertainment, even when it fails as logical construction. You can hold both truths simultaneously. The power scaling is broken, and the series is enjoyable. The mechanics are hollow, and the emotional beats land. The world building has gaps, and the animation is breathtaking. Loving flawed things is normal. Acknowledging flaws while still loving things is mature. Pretending flaws don't exist is denial. Letting flaws ruin your enjoyment is optional. My recommendation? Enjoy the animation. Feel the emotions. Root for Tanjiro and Nezuko. Cry when Rengoku dies. Cheer when upper moons fall. And then, when you're done feeling things, acknowledge the cracks. Understand why the tier list debates never resolve. Recognize that the breathing system provides no framework for comparison. Accept that the power structure is built on vibes rather than mechanics. Most importantly, stop fighting about tier lists, as if there's a correct answer hidden somewhere in the text. There isn't. The series doesn't provide one. Your interpretation is as valid as anyone else's because the source material supports multiple interpretations by failing to establish clear rules. Demon Slayer chose accessibility over depth. It succeeded wildly at what it chose to be. It failed at what it chose not to be. Both statements are true. If you came to this essay hoping I would definitively rank the Hashira or prove which upper moon is strongest, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I can't. Nobody can. The information doesn't exist. What I hope you take away instead is a framework for understanding why these debates are endless. the breathing system's hollowness, the hierarchy's inconsistency, the training logic's gaps.
These structural problems guarantee that power scaling discussions will continue forever without resolution.
And honestly, that's part of what keeps the fandom alive. Perfect systems get solved. Imperfect systems get debated. Demon Slayer will be debated for years to come. Alright, that's it for this video. Make sure to subscribe. It's free and really helps us keep bringing you more of this content.